Hey there! In this video we are going to be looking at the first couple of bars for the Greensleeves and the choreography that goes into this. We'll also be looking at ways to think about it so it's easier to remember, and hopefully you can memorize this piece, and you can do so pretty quickly using the chords and using a really intentional choreography. My finger goes here then, and then it goes over here. So to begin with, let's just look at these chords and just play through the chords. That way we can just do it just like if it was a sing-along. We have A minor, then C, then G. Now whenever you're just playing through these chords, don't even worry about the fingering that's on the piece or anything like that. Don't be looking at the notes. Simply be looking at the chords. Now you'll see this big bar chord, and if you're not comfortable playing bar chords, that's okay. You don't actually need to in this piece. But it is those are the notes anyway. So those are our chords basically, right? And so for these first couple of bars, we just have A minor, C to G to E minor, and then we finally end up on the A minor again before going on. So keeping that in mind, right? So we just keep those basic shapes in mind. That's just a grid that we can overlay onto the things that we're doing, and you can notice how what we're actually going to play, the notes of the piece, how that actually fits into those chords. And you can just kind of see, oh, it's that note from that chord and then that note from that chord. And so it's just a structure by which to help you to remember the piece. So now actually looking at the notes here, we start off with 2. And so this is pretty straightforward. A to the C. Now, here's the thing, and this goes for everything in this entire piece. This upper line is the melody line, right? This is the melody line. We want it to be as vocal as possible because we all know that this is a singing song, right? It's I mean, it's an instrumental, but there are words. There are different sets of words, and so we want to make it as vocal as possible. And the way to do that is to not put big breaks in between every single note. Instead, connect as much as possible, which means leave the 2 on when you're going and playing this because it's part of the same chord. So let that hang over. And now while this 1 is playing, move the 2, and so we want to connect the C to the D. And you may just practice back and forth that. And you just want to snag it right out of the air. Oftentimes it's the right hand that will mute things out by preparing on the string too early. Like this. So we want to just pluck it right out of the air. Move right through it. So that we can connect that upper line. And put your ear onto the connection of the notes. The end of the C and the beginning of the D. Really, the ending of the C is the one to think about. And then just practice that. Leading to that. And so the timing of your lifting fingers and placing fingers is important on this one. So now that we're at the C, be sure to continue playing that C while you play the F sharp up here in the top. And we want to connect that C to this next G, and that's why we use the 2 right here. And so we have, and this is a choreography thing, when you lift off of on this note right here, when you lift off of that, rotate around like this. So throw your wrist out. So that you can easily come down like this on this chord, on this big G chord right here with the 2 and the 4. That's a better way than using the 3 on this low G, because if you'd use the 3, then you'd have to lift it up, and there's no way to really connect it from the C to the G. You're going to have to lift, and so this way lets you really play very legato, very smooth and connected. So now we're to right here, and make sure that this continues to hold until it has to let go. once you get this, there's no reason to block this out. Let that overring as well. It's part of this E minor chord, right? The B is in there, but it's not the melody note. And then from there, straightforward. Once you play this B, let go of everything. Your low E will still be ringing, which is really nice because that'll connect to the bass. But on the B, let go and get into your A minor position so that you can drop straight in. So you can drop straight in onto the A minor. And so that's the choreography. To go through it again, holding the A at the beginning, connecting this, holding the C underneath, bringing that around on that last E, throwing the wrist out so that we can come very comfortably in right behind the frets to play this note, leaving the G on, connecting right to there, moving on that last B so that we can drop right into the A minor. Touchy, all these little things. But if you can articulate each little motion, then it will be much more smooth at the end. It'll be much more beautiful. Now that we've got all that, let's look at a couple of other things. And that is, what do we want to actually do with these? Now, as a general rule, if we're jumping over a bar line to a higher note, not by a step, but by a jump, then we want to play the one a little bit louder. We want to play the low note a bit louder than the upper notes. We're going to decrescendo up here. So big, small. And now, because we want to create some movement, let's get louder to this note, softer to that note. And so that'll just, because we're going up, here's another general rule for you. When you're going up in pitch, you want to arrive getting softer. So you don't want to ding. You don't want to do it that way. You want to back off to the very highest note. You can crescendo up to that point, but then at the very top you want to pull back on your sound, get quieter. And so same thing here, we don't accent the high note. And so don't accent this note right here. But we can crescendo down to this because we're going down, and down in pitch sounds good getting louder. Loud, soft, soft, loud, louder. And then you can continue getting louder because we're going down. Because this is a syncopation right here, we can accent this one if we would like to, da-dum-dum, but we definitely want to decrescendo from there to there, or from that top note, so that we get quieter to this, so that we land on this A minor quietly. And so that's the phrasing on this line. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the balance. And so this melody has to ride on top of everything else. So it can't be, I'm just going to play it wrong here. If you play, I'm playing this G right here. If you play this G and it just sounds like a big chord, well then our melody note gets lost in that. We don't want our melody note to get lost. We want it to be right up front. We've been singing it. That's what we want to hear. That's the most important thing. We could just ditch all of this and just play that and still have our song, right? And so we want to make sure that the bass and the interior voices especially don't overcrowd the top voice. They don't get in the way of our front voice. So the way that we do that is that we put our melody finger, which happens to be the A finger, we stick that out a little bit further than the other one. So when we go to this D chord, we want to just throw this A finger out a little bit further, and it'll just grab a little bit more string, and then we just close the hand. And it will, that's the note that we're hearing. Now I'll put that one finger out just a little bit further than the others, the melody note out a little further, and same here. Once we go to the E, then it'll be the M finger. that will make this note louder than the chord under it. So we want these top notes to be the loudest. And the way to do that isn't to try to play it harder. If you try to play it harder, you're going to get really bad sounds out of your instrument. Instead, just poke your finger out a little bit further and then just play into your hand. Just close your hand nice and gentle. And you'll have a beautiful toned chord. Same thing here. I'm just gently closing the hand, but this A finger, this is for the last A minor chord, is further out, so therefore I get the C on the top. And so there's a whole, balance is a whole thing into itself, but that is definitely something to work on so that you can listen for that. All right, in the next one we will go into the next section. See you there.